You're listening to the Huddle Up Podcast with Chad Jensen and Zach Kelberman. Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com and sound off. And now it's time to drop some knowledge.
Okay, we're live, but we're letting it breathe just for a moment here while we bring on Facebook, and then we will officially get this party started and get to some really fun conversations tonight. Some fun stuff we're going to get into. And it looks like we're good. Welcome in, everybody, to the Huddle Up Podcast, presented, as always, by Mile High Huddle, powered by Blue Wire Pods. I'm your host, Chad Jensen. With me is our esteemed producer-in-chief. You know him. You love him as Buona Beast. We call him Jon Kronenberg, all right? He's John K. That's who he is. John, what's going on, dude? Thanks for co-hosting with Zach being out on vacay.
Yeah, glad Zach is able to take a breather. He does this, lives and breathes Broncos. You know he does this all the time, 7 days a week. Even when we're not potting, he's always working, getting some angles, some articles, thinking about some new stuff. So I'm glad he was able to get away for a little bit, but I'm also so glad to be in front of you guys, able to speak with you. I'm behind the keyboards most of the time, but really talking to you guys, even through the keyboards, it means the world to me. Twitter, whatever ways we speak, I just really enjoy it. So it's great to be able to be live and able to see you this way.
Now, keep in mind, John's going to be chewing gum and walking at the same time today. He's going to be helping as a co-host and trying to do his producer job in the chat. But we might not be quite as lickety-split, Johnny, on the spot, getting to some of the chats as we might normally, but we will get to all the supers. Don't you worry. And it's also Mile High Mailbag Day, because we are your football priests, and each and every week we're here to offer you the absolution and answers to your burning Broncos questions. But John, first things first, you know, I got to pass on some unfortunate news. I really tried to get Jake Plummer on the show to talk about his upcoming movie. I was able to talk with Jake today and had a nice interview with him, but he just wasn't feeling the camera in his face thing, right? He's happy to talk. He's happy to be recorded. All that's fine, but he just wasn't really feeling doing a live podcast. But I did get to talk to him about his upcoming movie, and it sounds fun. They got a little bit of a gap to close to get the remaining funding, but it's only a fraction. They've got like 95% of it already funded. They need a little bit more. I'm going to have a piece coming out of my conversation with him at milehighhuddle.com later. But I thought it was interesting, John. One of the things after we got done talking about, you know, the movie stuff and all that, which they're trying to promote and create awareness, we got through that obligatory section. And I asked Jake if he regretted his decision following the 2006 season, right? Denver Broncos trade him to Tampa Bay. And you would think, oh, that actually might be a good fit. Another West Coast offense guy, John Gruden. Still only if not as many years removed as he is today from that Super Bowl that he won, right? Back in, what was that, 2002?
Yeah.
But Jake Plummer was being asked to go from being like the understood starter to having to go to Tampa and compete with Jeff Garcia and Brad Johnson, all these guys. And he said, you know what? Thanks, but no thanks. Retires, right? So I asked him if he regretted that. And long story short, he says, you know, his ego sometimes makes him question if he had made the right decision. But he told me, John, this was news to me. His plan was always to play 10 years and hopefully in that 10 years win a Super Bowl and then retire. I don't know that I've ever heard Jake Plummer go on record as saying this before, but he told me that if the Broncos had won this, had gotten to the Super Bowl the year prior, right, 2005, when they lost to the Steelers at home in the AFC title game, they had gotten over the hump, gotten to the Super Bowl, and beat the Seattle Seahawks in that Super Bowl, he was going to retire. He was going to do a John Elway, Peyton Manning, hoist the Lombardi, catch you later.
That seems so much like Plummer to me, though. When anything didn't go his way, I felt like, when the fans were booing him, for example, he gave them the bird, if you remember a little bit. He had this attitude that it was a winning attitude. He cared about his teammates. It wasn't so much about external glory. He wanted to get the glory of getting that Super Bowl for his team, for everything in that regard. And I don't blame him actually for what happened with the Buccaneers. To be honest, he was going into a situation where I think there was 4 other quarterbacks that had starting experience, then he's going in there, not guaranteed his position, not guaranteed his role. And it just wasn't a good situation. Gruden didn't handle it well himself. He didn't speak to Plummer. He said, yes, I want Plummer to be a part of this team, but he didn't go above and beyond trying to convince him. He didn't make Plummer feel like he was the guy. So of course, for Plummer, it felt it had to feel like a backhand slide a little bit. You get the Broncos to the AFC Championship next, and then all of a sudden they draft Cutler, and then you're going to have the issues of now you're going to Tampa Bay, and are they going to be with you all the way, or are they just going to look for you for 1 year and then once they find their solution go away? So for me, I always understood why Plummer did things the way he did. He had his attitude, the way he ran things was his way, and I loved his play. So I understand what he was talking about and where he's coming from.
Dude, I just always, one of my most, I don't want to say cherished because that gets a little too fanboyish, but one of my favorite eras of Broncos football was the 03, 04, 05. I'll even include 06, right, with Jake, because Jake arrived 03 playoffs, 04 playoffs, 05 AFC title game. 06 had the team cruising for the playoffs, 7-4. Unfortunately, the team had drafted a rookie in the first round in Jay Cutler, and Jake had 2-game losing streak, despite having the team still in the lead 11 games into this thing in the AFC West. Mike Shanahan rips the Band-Aid off, throws in Cutler, and then, of course, the rest is history, as we know. But Jake Plummer, man, if they had gone all the way, and I'll tell you this, I've said it on the podcast before many, many times, and unfortunately, I hate to say it, but Jake's performance in that AFC title game was the reason, not the only, but amongst the biggest factors behind why they didn't take care of business at home in the AFC title game against an upstart Steelers team with a second-year quarterback in Ben Roethlisberger. The reason they didn't take care of business, among them, Jake Plummer, who had been very efficient. He went from being called Jake the Snake, and he still is called Jake the Snake, but all the color guys and the national guys started calling him No Mistake Jake because he was just so efficient that year. Then he decides to have basically his worst game as a Bronco in the biggest moment of his career. But if they had gotten over that hump, John, I have no doubt in my mind, that Broncos team would have steamrolled the who was it? Matt, what's his name? Hasselbeck and Sean Alexander. I mean, they had a nice QB running back combo, but that was not a stacked team. And then maybe we would have gotten to see Jake Plummer do the, hey, this one's for me. Catch you later. Hang up the cleats.
Yeah, I definitely think they would have. I think most of the time they would have beaten that Steeler team as well as that Seahawk team. That's just my personal opinion. I just think the Broncos had a bad day. Plummer, as you were saying, he had a really high passer rating. I know we use QBR now, but what a great year that was, and wish we could have seen a few more in the end.
And I think, honestly, a big reason for it wasn't only Jake's fault. I don't want to make it sound like Jake was the only reason the Broncos lost that game. But I think because the week prior, they had handed Tom Brady his first playoff loss ever, right? And at the time, let's see, this was 05. So, yeah, the Patriots were the defending world champs. They were coming off that, let me make sure I got this right, 2000. No, they weren't. Who am I thinking? Were they defending world champs? Either way. Mm-hmm. Hands New England and Tom Brady his first playoff loss. It's almost like they all of their competitive juices and hormones, they worked it out in that game like that was getting over the hump. Well, you still needed to keep it going. You still needed to, you can't shoot your wad in the divisional round. You got to also beat the AFC title game opponent and win the Super Bowl. So anyway,
That's a great point.
I'll have a long form piece coming out on my conversation with Jake, and he also had some really interesting things to say about one Drew Lock. I opted not to go into Aaron Rodgers territory, though he was down to talk about it if I wanted to, but I'm like, what more can there really be said about that? We've already got Jake on the record talking about that. So real quick, and then we'll get to some matters of business. John, we got George Newton in early with a super sticker, number one. George, you're number one, dude, in our hearts. Love you,
George.
brother.
I got to say, George is in here early all the time. He's always getting the conversation going. No matter what, whatever we have as the topic, he'll get a conversation going if no one's speaking. So, George, appreciate everything you do. You're on point with your Broncos knowledge, and just enjoy speaking with you when we have the opportunity. Thank you so much for that super chat and that super sticker.
So one thing I want to grab real quick, and then a lot of these super chats will start to make a little bit more sense, is something that came via NFL.com's Mark Sessler, who said this. I'm going to quote him real quick. This is thanks to the DenverBroncos.com actual website, doing some heavy lifting for us, aggregating some stories. This is from DenverBroncos.com. Quote, picking one player from each team for the Pro Bowl. Hold on. Yeah, so 2021 season nearly upon us. Which Bronco could be the next Pro Bowl newbie? Picking a player from each team for that honor. So Sessler went around and said, which, for all 32 teams, here's a player who's never made a Pro Bowl that's likely to. He picked Garett Bolles. Quote, Denver's left tackle was a bona fide Pro Bowl snub after finishing as PFF's third best tackle. The 2017 first rounder made the leap in his fourth season as a count-on-me run blocker and protector of the quarterback. Perhaps Bolles could follow in Justin Simmons' footsteps, building on his second-team All-Pro season with a Pro Bowl campaign in the ensuing season, close quote. So, John, how likely do you think that is? And how optimistic are you that last year wasn't just a one-off for Garett Bolles?
I'm very optimistic with Bolles. I've spoken a little bit in the past about Bolles and when it comes to his disabilities, and this is maybe a little long-winded, so I'm not sure if we want to get to the matter of business first, but when it comes to Bolles, I think what he needed was the proper coaching. He needed to also have being taught the proper way. So he's had some issues just being able to learn how to play the position. And that takes years. And for me, it takes the right coach as well. So he may have had some great coaching, some coaches that could really do some phenomenal work. But however, it does not work with how Bolles learns. So when Munchak came in, that really gave Bolles a great opportunity to learn in a way where someone could teach him what he needs to do in a way that he understands. And so he understood how to take these blocks and make these adjustments. And I think that's a huge testament to all learning disabilities, where each, that person, they have to be taught a certain way, and then it's meant for them. So a coach can't just say, I taught a left tackle this way. With Bolles, you know what? He's going to learn differently. So that's one big thing with me when it came to Bolles. He has that coach in place now. He has the fundamentals in place. And now he probably can advocate for himself as well to get the proper coaching if Munchak leaves eventually because of his age and his family. That's how I feel about Bolles going forward.
Hey, I'm optimistic. I think he was just, it's a little bit different because he doesn't play a skill position or even on defense where they're racking up stats, right? You really look at the film, but he was just so steady and so consistent that I really don't expect that to change. It's something clicked in the mind of Garett Bolles. And sure, it helped that the NFL was a little bit lax as far as the refs were concerned, getting the word from on high, hey, let's be a little bit more discretionary with our holding flags, right? That helped him a little bit. And we'll see how much that persists, that holding on to the flags thing into 2021. But I am not worried at all about Bolles having a similarly consistent season. I'm really not. And real quick, I know we got many, many super chats. We're going to get to them. So I'm going to blast through these matters of business, guys. Follow the podcast on Twitter at HuddleUpPod, the main account at Mile High Huddle. You can find John on Twitter. Oh, I almost just clicked on it, but look, it's on screen at
I'm right here.
John K, MHH. Myself at Chad and Jensen. And then don't forget to also follow Zach Kelberman at Kelberman NFL. Hey, you want to connect with us on social media? Twitter's great. Also, Facebook. There is a Huddle Up Podcast Facebook page. In fact, we're streaming there right now. Make sure you're liking and following that page, even if you're not huge on enjoying the show from Facebook. Maybe you're YouTube or Twitter or Twitch or listening after the fact on Apple Podcasts. But please head on over to Facebook, like and follow that page. That automatically enters you into our weekly giveaways, our raffles for a little swag. In fact, remind me, John, before the night's over to get to the name who wins this week. And then also, guys, kindly consider becoming a supporter of MHH on Facebook. It is easy to do. Find our Facebook page, facebook.com/Mile High Huddle. Big blue button at the top. Become a supporter. Click that. You're in like Flynn. You get access to Kelberman's Corner every Sunday at noon Mountain Time, the Trickle Zone every Saturday at noon Mountain Time, These weekends now include a show called Broncos Book Club with yours truly. It's another great way to help support what we're doing, keep the lights on here at MHH, and also get you access to our premium VIP video content. Also, check out the merch store, gang, when you get a second, huddleuppod.com. Get your swag on, get a hat, get a T-shirt, little something, something. And if you're not in a position, pardon me, to do those things, hey, believe us when we say we're just stoked to have you with us. Check to make sure you are subscribed. The number has steadily dwindled, John, in terms of the number of people who watch this show every single day on YouTube who aren't subscribed. So that's good, but it's still a pretty serious number. Like it's around 30% of the people who are watching this every single night. They're not actually subscribed to Mile High Huddle on YouTube. So check that, gang. Make sure you are. Like the video kindly. If you're on Facebook or YouTube, guys, that is the most organic way you can help us on a day in, day out basis. Every piece of content you see, including these live streams, give it a like. And then, hey, even if you don't agree with every word that comes out of my mouth or Zach's or John's, if you respect the effort, please share this video out there and help us continue to grow, reach new like-minded Broncos fans just like you. All right, go ahead, John.
I was just going to say, remember to subscribe because you're going to get other videos as well. We just recently had one with Eric Trickle go up on Calvin Anderson. I know a lot of people are interested in that tackle position behind with the depth. So always subscribe and you'll get those videos as well.
No doubt about it. No doubt. Michaela, everyone knows Michaela now. I mean, everyone knew Michaela anyway, but now everyone knows Michaela. She was on the show last night, knocked it out of the park. Appreciate the super chat, my friend. It was great getting a chance to visit with you. She says, frankly, I would like to see another top year from Bolles before making the claim. Hi, Zach and John. I think she meant I'm hurt. Chad and John. Let's go, Michaela. Let's go.
Wait. Correction. You're taken care of.
She's a Hall of Famer for a reason, right?
Exactly. But yeah, let's get back to her question. Let me put that back up there. I understand wanting to see him another year with a lot of players. If they make, a burst year come out, you always have some questions still. But I feel like even though that was a contract year, I think Bolles still has that drive in him, that desire to prove everyone wrong. That those first couple years, guess what? Those were not the Bolles that he is. It's not what he's capable of. He wants to show that he is one of the best tackles in the league, and he is going to have that option. And I think he's going to, as we were saying, we're very optimistic about this. I think he can do that one more year for you, Michaela, and you will be delighted to have him for the rest of, the rest of his career with his age.
So here's the question, all right? And I'm still in this idea from the great Scott Kennedy, who did a great job holding down the fort today solo on Broncos for Breakfast. But on his YouTube channel, by the way, guys, make sure you are subscribed to Scott's YouTube channel. It's very, very much for any NFL fan, a worthy subscription, youtube.com/C/Scott Kennedy. Easy to find. But I'm still in his idea about the best ever. And on the topic of being the best ever, I want to ask you this. In your opinion, Garett Bolles, now 4 full seasons into his career, he's entering year 5. Is he a top 5 left tackle in Denver Broncos history?
It sounds weird to say because there was been some bad years, but I do think he's a top 5 tackle for the Broncos. Specifically, we're only talking left tackles. He is a top 5 tackle. That's how I feel. There, you can, we're going to go through a list of tackles here, but I don't see anyone making a claim for anyone above him at this point. I understand you can make claims from the years past, but there hasn't been many tackles that have been great with the Broncos besides the stars that we're so accustomed to.
So let's go through this real quick. Let's define who our respective top 5 left tackles in Broncos history are. And since you are guest hosting, John, I'll let you go first. Do it from 5 to 1. Do it from 5 to 1.
So you want all of them at once?
Yeah, let's go.
So I got Garett Bolles at number 5. We'll get into that reason a little bit more in a second. Got Tony Jones at number 4. Got Ryan Clady at number 3. One of my personal favorites, Matt Lepsis, is at number 2 for me. And then at number 1, I think this is an automatic, Gary Zimmerman. Man, Hall of Famer. What else can you say? Gary Zimmerman, number 1.
My list is very similar. One exception. So in descending order, I'm putting Garett Bolles in my top 5 all time. Because remember, there haven't been that many left tackles of it's not like the Broncos have a who's who list of former Pro Bowl and all pro left tackles. There is a Hall of Famer at the position, Gary Zimmerman. We know, spoiler alert, he's our number 1 all time for both of us. But beyond Ryan Clady, you have to really and Bolles, you have to really go back to the 60s to find a tackle who made a Pro Bowl for the Denver Broncos. And that goes beyond, I'm a student of history, and I know those names, and I know about those teams, but I wasn't there to see it with my own eyes, right? And so it's a little bit different. So for me, it goes like this. Garett Bolles, number 5. Ryan Harris. Now, I know right now you're going to go, wait a minute, he was a right tackle. Yeah, he was, but he was also the starting left tackle on the world champion 2015 Denver Broncos
Great
Super
point.
Bowl team. All right, and storied history, former 3rd-round pick of the team. He was an original round guy. Then he left, bounced around, came back. So, all right, Bolles 5, Harris 4, 3, Tony Jones, 2, Ryan Clady, 1, Gary Zimmerman.
Wow, okay. I love the Harris pick for one reason. I'm not sure if any of you, I'm talking, if any of you are my age have watched this. He was on a show on MTV about getting ready for it had to do with weight, and he had to put on an extreme amount of weight to get ready to go to the University of Notre Dame. Sorry to go on this little tangent. It's just one of my favorite stories.
This is why we're here. Tangent away.
And so he was working out, always putting on the weight, working hard. And I always remember just seeing him on that show on MTV and always thinking, I wonder if that kid's going to make it into the pros. And then out of nowhere, I see the Broncos, and this was, a little bit younger of me. I see the Broncos take Ryan Harris. And I said, could that be like that person on that TV show and on MTV so long ago? Was he selected by the Broncos? And it, in fact, was Ryan Harris. He was selected. So I always have a great soft spot for Ryan Harris, just because I remember watching him a little bit as a high school kid, it felt like, and now I've seen where he's come to, and even where he's come to now. I mean, he's, besides his playing days now, he's also great in the community. So I'll give you a little bit of room with Ryan Harris because of how much he touches my heart.
But you know what? Matt Lepsis, who does indeed have a Super Bowl ring, because we had to research this because we knew that Lepsis obviously came to the Broncos undrafted from CU in 97. So we're thinking, well, doesn't he have 2 rings? No, he doesn't. In 97, he was a practice squad guy, and pretty sure back then practice squad guys didn't get rings. But the next year, even though he wasn't a starter, he was on the active roster, so he got a Super Bowl ring for Super Bowl 33, and then went on, in between the Gary Zimmerman, Tony Jones shortly followed that era. He was the left tackle until injuries kind of took its toll, and Mike Shanahan went back to the well, drafted Ryan Clady in the first round in 2008. So Lepsis is absolutely an honorable mention. And in terms of staying power and tenure, I could see how some Broncos fans would pick nits with even yours and mine, John, decision to have Garett Bolles. And in my case, why I would have Garett Bolles on the top 5 over Matt Lepsis. But Bolles has already been more prolific in terms of achievements, accomplishments than Matt Lepsis was. But that's not taking anything away from Lepsis, because he was also, John, great story too, as a former undrafted guy from CU
Boulder. Very happy about that. And, that was back then. I believe he played tight end actually at CU. So that really shows that he's taken kind of a development. We've talked about saying, is this tight end able to move to tackle? We've seen one guy do it in Matt Lepsis. And real quick, we'll get to In the Shop with Willie. Why don't you, with a $5 super, why don't I take this to prove I am not Willie. Willie and I get along great. He's a great guy. Love Willie. He's going to get his own channel up going soon with some cars and different things. So really be on the lookout for that. But we got Willie saying, John, you didn't tell me you'd be on tonight. My man doing the emojis for Drew Lock.
We all know what it means. We
all know what he means. And I appreciate it, Willie. Just, I just wanted to see if you came on, would say hello. Didn't want to feel like, pressuring you to come on, honestly.
And by the way, John is, of course, cracking wise on that. We all know who Willie is. Willie's been on the show, but John, Zach makes fun of John sometimes. Willie is John's burner account, because of how much love Willie gives John. But they're good buddies, so it is what it is. Willie, thanks, brother. It is great to see you. Appreciate the super chat. And John, look who it is. We got
Bobby,
veritable princess of MHH. Grab this one, dude.
Yeah, Poppy, it's great being able to speak with you. It's been a while. Hope everything's going well. Really appreciate all of your generosity. And she says, hey, Chad, Beast, and MHH family, giving us some hearts as well. Good to see you, Beast. Hope everyone is having a great night. I think we are. It's always better when we have Poppy in here as well. Poppy is someone when you're down, you can reach out to, and she's brightened my day plenty of times. So this MHH family I know means a lot to her, and I appreciate you, Poppy. You've always been very sweet and supportive of me. So thank you so much, and that's a huge super. So thank you, and I hope all is well with you as well.
It is great to see you. It is great. It's the chat just isn't the same without Poppy in the hizzy. So much love to you, my friend. It is great to see you. It is great to see you. Hope you've been well. Guys, what are your thoughts on these top fives? It is the Mile High Mailbag. We'll get to as many as we can, including Zeus jumping in with a very generous Zeus McPeak. We got to get Zeus back on the show. By the way, Zeus, you'll be happy to know that I have finally mastered the internet demons. All right, I have put them under my heel. I've got a router set up for in the house for the family. Blah blah blah. My studio. In fact, next time I stream for the Huddle Up podcast, I'll be streaming from the studio. You guys get to see that, but had a entirely different system and router and account set up for the studio, and it's top of the line, Doc. And thanks to you, some tips you gave us when we were able to chat with you on the show and before the show last year, I got it made in the shade. So Zeus, love you, buddy. Really appreciate you. John, real quick here.
Yeah.
Lane. I love throwing on my Jake the Snake jersey from time to time just to see the responses. I think he's a guy that did on a minority of Broncos fans wear thin with some of his antics. And by that, I just simply mean that, when every quarterback in the league has experienced getting booed by their own fans when things aren't going their way. And that's not a sign that fans are saying, to hell with you, we hate you. It's just do better, right? That's all it means is do better. And of course, as you mentioned earlier in the show, Jake was one to respond in kind, right? Mm-hmm. And I think for some fans, I think most fans were really disappointed to see Jay Cutler get drafted. And that's nothing against Jay Cutler. Jake was, I think, very much a treasured figure for most Broncos fans, but there is that aspect of he's kind of like a long-haired hippie punk rocker playing quarterback for the love of the game. And that's something he talked to me about today as well. But in history and in retrospect, I think most fans like Lane look back on Plummer's 4-year era in Denver with, just fond memories and appreciation for what he did, because similar to Peyton, only it didn't result in a world championship. That 4-year reign that he was here, 06, if he would have been left to continue starting that season, I can guarantee you right now, Broncos would have found their way into the playoffs. And then who knows? But it was as prolific in terms of wins and playoff berths as any 4-year stretch in team history, not counting 96 through, 96, 97, 98. And then, of course, Manning's 4 years.
Yeah, I love Jake the Snake. I feel like either people, like you were saying, they either have a love-hate relationship, but as time has gone on, I think people have realized he was to be appreciated, and I think that's happened. I've seen at a few games. The last time I went to a game, he was there, and he just stood up, and everyone gave him an ovation. So I know that the Broncos fans have kind of switched to a much more jovial feeling towards Jake Plummer, in my opinion, at least. Let
me just put it this way: Jake Plummer in Casa Jensen is a Denver Broncos quarterback that has always been appreciated and highly, highly, highly regarded. So, yes. And again, guys, look for that piece. I'll have a couple of articles coming out, in fact, on my conversation with Jake tonight and tomorrow. So check for that. And Travis, what's up, dude? Good to see you as well. Thank you. One of our great super supporters on Facebook. And Travis, we will be getting back to you in our email correspondence. He wants to send us some T-shirts. We'll be getting back to you with the specific details on that. So don't think we forgot about you. We will get back to you here very, very soon. Appreciate you.
Hey, Gary
and the
Leeds
legend.
Palmer. Yes, we have the legend of the superstar, Gary Leeds Palmer. I'd like to be able to say thank you for you personally this time. Chad and John and all of Broncos country. Appreciate that, Gary. It's not the same without you. We love looking for your supers and just seeing you chat.
Amen. Also, Michael has come out of the blue over the last, month and a half or so, just very dedicated, outgoing listener and member of the community. Every single pod, every night, whether it's Huddle Up or one of the other shows, he's in there supporting the cause, buying the swag, rocking the swag, supporting the brand. So, Michael, shout out to you, my friend. Good to see you.
I got one question for you. We went through these tackles really quickly, but Gary Zimmerman, to me, I've heard few people say he should be considered a Bronco. I've heard other people can say he should be considered a Viking. Where do you come down on that?
Well, I think if they don't really view it that way anymore in the hall. Like you're going into the hall as a Bronco or you're going into the hall. They don't really do it that way. But if you were going to actually make that an argument, he had he was more successful you could argue he had more individual success in Minnesota. But that individual success, though not as long, was there as well in Denver, and he got a world championship. So in the same way that I think, look, Colts fans are always going to think of Peyton Manning as theirs. I think Broncos fans and a lot of non-Broncos fans view Peyton as a Bronco in many, many ways, just because that 4 years he was here, he wasn't just Peyton Manning. Like it was Peyton Manning, and the Broncos were like breaking records and double-digit wins each year, prolific, right? All the records in 2013. And so I view Gary Zimmerman as a Bronco and a Viking. But if push came to shove and you said you got to pick one, I'm going to err on the side of which team did he get to the top of the mountain? Denver.
Yeah, I was thinking about that a little bit when pondering this, and he had Pat Bowlen do his speech for when he was inducted into the Hall of Fame. That also says a lot to me. A lot of things about Gary Zimmerman are very interesting. He was one of the few players that was in the USFL for a little bit before he came to the NFL, was playing with Steve Young there. Some cool things about that. And then he was drafted by Minnesota once the USFL kind of collapsed. They had to do a supplemental draft. And, when you look at his numbers, 3 All-Pros, one of them was with the Broncos in 96, and 7 Pro Bowls. And again, through all the different years, a NFL all-decades team in the 80s and 90s. Really, he makes the strongest case for any Bronco at this point. He is the number one left tackle. Even if you only say he played for those few years, he made a difference those few years, and he really made that impact. And I just always enjoyed hearing those little nitbits about him. It was fun for me.
So we got real quick. I just want to. Where'd he go? Yes, Ken Lanier is deserving to be on the top of all-time list. I think it was Michael said Bolles over Lepsis is a stretch. And then here he is with the super chat as well. Thank you, Michael, for the support, my friend. He says, John, here's $10. Buy a Broncos poster for your wall. Great to see a live one.
It's a nice painting. It's a painting. Yeah, come on, happy. It's a little bit of zest to life. Come on. We don't need Broncos everything. Come on. Let's do a nice painting.
It's the spice of life. Art, right? It's the zest. But he goes on, John, to say, great to see a live one and cool to have you on. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you, Michael. John, real quick, on the notion of Matt Lepsis, I understand the argument for anyone that would say, no, Lepsis over Bolles. I totally understand it. This is one of those to each their own, eye of the beholder type situations. Yes. But let me just take a look. So if you look at his NFL career, he officially was categorized as, being an NFL player from 98 to 07, even though he was around in 97. 98 is when he was on active rosters making that transition, as you mentioned, from being a tight end. He was such an athlete that they could take that, put some weight on him, and now he's a shutdown left tackle. Mm-hmm. But he went from 98 through 07, all right? And he was a 16-game starter, 99 through 2005. He did miss a game. Excuse me. 16-game starter in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
He had 1 year
7 out of 9 years.
Yeah, I think he had 1 year with an ankle where he unfortunately missed, but keep going.
And my point, though, was he ended up finishing his career as in Denver as having started 133 games. Now, real quick, just for you know what and gigs, let me just take a quick look. 4 years into Garett Bolles' career, this man has started 63. So he's got about half of the road to hoe that Lepsis has in terms of, body of work. But I just think that considering that he was a original first-round pick of the team, considering that he was basically given up and left for dead on the side of the road by media, myself included in many ways, and many fans alike, for him to turn the corner, not just to just say, oh, look, he wasn't holding people anymore. Cool. But to go on and become an analytics darling, earn a coveted accolade like a second-team All-Pro, I put that up over Matt Lepsis because I don't think Matt Lepsis ever earned Pro Bowl nods. I'm not sure on that. I'll double-check it, though, John.
I don't think he actually had a Pro Bowl nod either. And he did play a lot of right tackle, I'll admit that. I think he only had a few years at left tackle. That was more in the end of his career. So I understand where you're coming from. He definitely made that huge jump. And Lepsis was more of a, guy you found rough, in the dirt kind of thing. But with Bolles, it's hard to argue anything against him. But for me, Lepsis was my left tackle growing up. So I do admit there's some bias there. At the same time, we need to see more from Bolles than just 1 year. I think Lepsis, if you were to give me 10 years of what Lepsis could do versus, let's say, only 3 years Bolles can do what he does, I'll take the 10 years of Lepsis. Lepsis was solid, and he was great with the culture of the Broncos, same as Bolles. But Lepsis kept the culture in Denver the old way, and that's how I feel.
David Bingaman, yes, I did get your email, and I did read your email. His thesis is that what if Aaron Rodgers was just so disillusioned with everything, the Jordan Love drafting, and, he's been in the league a long time, and he has been to the top of the mountain, even though it was well over a decade ago. Maybe he decided after last year, after being the MVP, that he was going to retire, but to kind of stick the knife into his, Green Bay Packers executives and the way that he felt they stuck it into him by drafting Jordan Love, he's leaving everybody hanging by creating this false I want to be traded thing, but had decided all along, starting in January after the season ended and they were bounced in the NFC title game, I'm going to retire. I don't think so. It's fun. It's an interesting, theory, David, but I don't think so. I really don't. Even if he wanted to somehow get back at the Green Bay Packers, I mean, come on, dude. What are we talking about here? This is a man that's earned hundreds of millions of dollars. He's considered to be one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, one of the greatest of his era. I just don't think he would be that small, that petty. I don't know. Yeah. I could be wrong. I do think he's kind of a weird guy. You guys have heard me say that before, but that would really surprise me. And I think that'll come out in the wash, John. If he does retire, then David's right, but I don't think he's going to retire. But very interesting theory, David.
Yeah, that's an interesting theory. I don't think that would be something he would do. You don't play with multi-million-dollar companies. This is playing with people's livelihoods as well. I don't think he would play with GM's livelihoods, scouts' livelihoods. That's just not the way I think anybody should act. Could he act that way? Of course. There are some people that are petty, unfortunately, and that's what they do.
By the way, we've talked about a lot of guys here tonight. We have not let our hair down on Ryan Clady. Ryan Clady needs to be in the Ring of Fame at the first possible opportunity. All right. And by the way, Gio, enjoy those Bulls jerseys for opening night at New York Giants. That's going to be cool for you. And I'm sure you're taking Jasmine, right? You're going to take your daughter and have a good old time. But John, we haven't talked enough yet about Ryan Clady and how special he was. The Broncos draft him in the first round out of Boise State in 08, immediately plug him in. Day one starter at left tackle, goes on to, it might have been beaten since then, but at the time he was the first rookie left tackle to start all 16 games in NFL history and not relinquish a single sack. He was credited with a half sack, but he did not get credited with relinquishing a full sack. And at least up until that point in the recent, past, He's the only guy to ever do that. And he goes on to, let's not forget, Ryan Clady, who also has a world championship ring with the Broncos because he was on the active roster in 2015. Then he gets hurt. That's when they scramble. They go out and they sign Ryan Harris back, end up re-signing Tyler Columbus as well, who's an honorable mention for right tackle if you want to get into that. But Clady ends up being, of course, on injured reserve, but with rules being the way they are now, he got a ring, and he's considered to be a Super Bowl 50 champion. He did contribute in his own way, even though it was cut short, to what that team was and what it became in 2015. But this was a 4-time Pro Bowler, 09. I'm surprised even as a rookie he didn't make the Pro Bowl, but 4-time Pro Bowler, 2-time first team All-Pro, 1-time second team All-Pro. And then, of course, he was on the all-rookie team, all that stuff. Ryan Clady is just one of the finest players to ever don the orange and blue, and I just hate the fact that the injury bug cut short that career because he could very well, John, still be playing. He's only 34.
I mean, if you look at players that were taken from that class, that was a great left tackle class or offensive tackle class in general. Joe Staley, I'm not sure if he retired, but he was playing last year. So definitely Ryan Clady could have still been playing. It's very unfortunate what happened to him. I believe it was something with his ankle or Liz Frank, as you can see with some of those injuries. If it, these athletes, these offensive linemen, these tackles especially, they are great with their feet. And if you lose that ability for that motion, it will take away your career. As you said, pretty much every single time he was during a Bronco career, he was a Pro Bowler. I think except 2010 or something, he didn't get it. And also was a great in college as well, an All-American. That's the reason why he was taken so high. So Clady, everything about him from college career to the end of his career, he was fantastic. Broncos fans loved him. Very disappointed that we couldn't see his career fully blossom, but no matter what, Ring of Fame kind of guy. Everyone wants to, if you saw him at a training camp, you would run for his autograph. Everyone would. He's a great guy.
Well, and he's also, one of the things I think that kind of hurts him in the legacy department is something that was no fault of his, which is quarterback instability. He blocked for the likes of Jay Cutler, Kyle Orton, Brady Quinn, Tim Tebow. Then he finally gets Peyton Manning and had it made in the shade. And then that's when the injury bug starts nipping at his heels. He did have 2 seasons, though, as the lockdown blindside protector for Peyton Manning, 2012 and 2014. Both years, of course, he makes the Pro Bowl. And in 12, that's one of his 2 first-team All-Pro nods. But, John, let's grab this super chat here from Willie. Yes. Again, thanks, bro. He says, I think Bolles has earned a little tough love. I also would like to see him play like his salary another year before I would look at it as not being an outlier last year. And that's fair. I don't fault you for that one bit, Willie. I don't fault anyone for that, John.
I agree, and you want him to get where that salary is. I think it's a great salary in the end. Also, just speaking on the Broncos deal, one of the last moves Elway did, really thought he did well with that move. I'm very glad to have him for years, and I think he will play up to that for you, Willie. If not, we'll talk about it. We'll maybe get a gentleman's bet going.
Michael says, Mike Shanahan did not like Jake Plummer. Now, I wouldn't say that. I really wouldn't. Mike Shanahan's the reason Jake Plummer became a Bronco. All right, Mike Shanahan coveted and wanted Plummer. Mike Shanahan liked Plummer so much that he was willing to give up on the guy who was supposed to be the successor to John Elway, Brian Griese. Brian Griese was the starter as late as 2002. In 2002, he, like much of his career in Denver, injured, missed a few starts. You had guys like Berline and trying to remember Danny Cannell starting games. But Shanahan liked Plummer so much as a fit for his scheme that he was willing to give up on Griese. And then he rolled with Plummer for a couple of years. And he really was like the only gripe I think you can have about Jake Plummer is he didn't have an elite arm strength. Everything else, though, dude, this man had in spades, from the athleticism to that magician's knack for just making something out of nothing, being elusive, being the leader, though. What really set Jake Plummer apart from all of his peers, I mean, Jay Cutler couldn't even sniff the caliber of leader that Jake Plummer was. The problem for Mike, all right, and the reason Jake Plummer ultimately fell out of favor is by the time you get, John, to the 2005 season, Mike had been the head coach in Denver for just over a decade. He knew that he's, I mean, how many coaches outside of Bill Belichick, outside of Lombardi? I mean, they don't have guaranteed write your own check, just tell us when you're done coaching job security. And even though it felt like Mike had that for a long time, he knew that he was getting up there. Like, he felt a sense of urgency. And I think he was so disappointed by Plummer's performance in that AFC title game that he thought, look, I got to have a plan B. And then, the rest is history. But I would never go so far as to say Shanahan didn't like Plummer, though I know they did butt heads big time from post 2005 AFC title game on.
You can butt heads with people that you work with and still get the work and the job done. And I think when it came to Plummer, he fit Kubiak's system. He fit everything that was going on. Those naked bootlegs, man, how many of us do just remember seeing those plays and being confused with the cameraman and just enjoying those plays? He fit the system in Denver. So for everything that maybe fans didn't like, they didn't get along with, he brought other things to the table where we're seeing some amazing plays and all those different things alike.
Quick shout out to these top star senders on Facebook. Claude, what's up, dude? Good to see you. Thank you so much. John, see if you can work some magic and find maybe if Claude had a comment or a question, because the chat has been pretty heavy and it's hard to find them sometimes while you're all talking off the top of your head. And, here it is. Claude, thank you, buddy. He says, no matter who, what, when, where, or why, go Broncos, hashtag Denver Broncos for life, hashtag return to glory. Appreciate that, my friend. Pobby, super chat. Pobby, superstar on Facebook as well. Love you. Travis Tarbox as well. Gary Leeds Palmer. Thanks, all four of you. And guys, these star senders, all right, and supporters on Facebook are helping us and helping you get us to that 500,000 star goal, which is where we're going to give away a Von Miller jersey, all right, to people who have people who have contributed to the cause on Facebook. So thanks to each and every one of you.
Yeah, appreciate you guys. I'm not usually able to say that to you guys, but thank you for all the stars. It's always great to see them come in. I always try to get your comments. So if I miss something, please let me know if you donated some stars, and I'll try to get the best to you as I can.
Here's the thing, too, about Jake Plummer that he doesn't get enough love for is, he had a season in which he threw 2,000-yard receivers, Rod Smith, Ashley Lilly. He also was the quarterback in 2005 that presided over the Broncos coming just this close to having 2,000-yard rushers in the same season, and Mike Anderson and Tatum Bell. The Broncos offense, it was a different kind of offense than the modern schemes, but it was a juggernaut in its time. People feared that rushing game so badly that the play action over the top, like John talked about with the naked boots that would get the defense sucked in and going laterally across the left side or right side, whatever. And then Jake would roll out and boom, Rod Smith over the top, boom, Ashley Lilly over the top. I really have always been an admirer of Jake Plummer's. And even before he became a Bronco, I always just lamented. I was like, because I followed him during his collegiate career at Arizona State, the fact that he was a Boise kid and all that. And I just always thought, man, it'd be cool if he was a Bronco. And then one day it happened, right? And so Jake Plummer, to me, like emotionally, John Elway, Jake Plummer.
Yeah.
Then Peyton. And that might be that might be that might rub some people wrong. But sacrilegious. That's the word I was looking for to some people. But in my emotional heart of hearts, Elway, Plummer, Manning.
And that could be one reason why I have Lepsis higher. I had him at number 2 than Clady. For me, Lepsis was a person where I went to training camp. He was a nice guy. I even had a friend where Lepsis's last game, he took off his helmet and he gave my friend a helmet and his last helmet to his last game. And I just always had a great connection with Lepsis, and he was always a great person. So great different things.
Guys, if you're liking this best ever Broncos edition top 5 thing, hey, we'll do it again Sunday night for the Huddle Up Pod, John and I. But you're going to have to request here in the chat what position you would want us to focus on, because we're open to suggestion on that. We could just robotically pick the next position and say top 5 guards or top 5 centers or whatever. But you guys tell us what you want us to focus on in that regard.
Would love that.
On Sunday. Okay.
Yeah.
Corner. We're hearing from Joel the Fool. Corner.
That'd be interesting.
Indeed. We'll see.
I have a lot of different corners, a lot of different feelings. Got running back as well, but we do have a lot of corners. zone schemes. We've got Mark here real quickly. Really appreciate those stars. Thank you so much. Want to say thank you really quickly there.
And you know what, real quick, John?
Go ahead.
The whole zone blocking thing, like Mike Shanahan deserves a lot of credit for having
but not all,
but for having the intestinal fortitude to start implementing that.
Yeah.
But who was
it? Remind me of the coach. Give me the first letter. I know it.
Alex Gibbs.
Thank you. It was Gibbs, and Gibbs really did do a fantastic job. Didn't he end up going to the Texans, unfortunately, later? And when it ended, it was a sad ending of that relationship when the Broncos went to more of that power scheme with, I believe, when Franklin came around. That's when they switched to that more power.
Yeah, he went with Coob. He followed Coob.
Yeah.
But see, Alex Gibbs was a guy who bounced around from college to the pros, trying to tell people for years and years about his zone blocking philosophy and how it's, a freaking weapon just waiting to be deployed. It wasn't until Mike Shanahan that anyone really took him seriously and said, wait a minute now, let's draw this up. Ooh, I can catch the vision. All right, let's try practicing this. And then it was just 1,000-yard rusher after the other, starting with Terrell Davis to, Glenn Milburn to Olandis Gary to freaking Clinton Portis, right? Who am I missing? Reuben Drones.
Yep.
Mike Anderson.
Mike Anderson. But here's the thing: when those players left, they didn't have the same success. Some of them had some mild success. Like even for Orlando Scary, he had an okay year one year, but he was never the same. None of those guys were never the same, and it was because of the offensive line. It was because of the scheme. It was not seen in the past, really. And opening, it was just such a simple concept, but if a running back had the vision for it, man, was that a special system to be in.
You know what's crazy about Orlando Scary's 1,000-yard year, 99, remember, I almost said T.O. Terrell Davis, TD, started that year healthy and on the roster. And it was, 3-4 games in that he had that knee injury that ended up basically ending his career. So Orlandis rushed for nearly 1,200 yards in just 12 games. So my dude was averaging nearly 100 yards a game, and you give him credit for that, but you also credit that Broncos O-line and the schematic vision of the Shanahan-Alex Gibbs marriage.
And I even remember a game where Mike Anderson went over 200 yards. I mean, that's huge for a running back, especially when a team knows that all you're going to do is run. I mean, I'm not sure how many yards again. I don't remember. He wasn't anywhere, the 295 that Jamal Lewis had at that time, I think was the record. But, man, that was just one of those amazing games. Real quick, before we go, do you want to talk a little bit about Tony Jones?
Yeah, Tony Jones, the reason he's so high on my list, now most fans actually think of Tony Jones as a right tackle because this Super Bowl 32 squad, you had Zimmerman on one side, Tony on the other. But then when Zimmerman hung up his cleats, Tony took over as the left guy. And so, I think those of us in Bronco land are old enough to have remembered watching those teams, Tony Jones was a pillar, man. He was a rock. And he was another guy that really flourished under the coaching direction of Alex Gibbs, Mike Shanahan. And in fact, if you look at his career, he was a left tackle through most of his career playing in the league from 1990, right tackle in Cleveland. But the ensuing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, he played left tackle. Then he comes to Denver. We got a future Hall of Famer locking down left side. How about this year you play right tackle and then we'll see what happens? He's like, yeah, no problem. And then, of course, he finished his career in the 3 following seasons as Denver's left tackle, 16-game starter in 98, Super Bowl, 12-game starter in 99, little injury, and then 16-game starter his final year in 2000.
Yeah. Real quick, want to get to Travis's point here. Great point. He shut down Reggie White in Super Bowl 32. That's huge. I mean, that's just a huge feat any game. Don't tell me, especially when you're playing in the Super Bowl. Huge feat. I know he passed away, unfortunately, this year in January as well. Tony Jones did. So want to, give him a shout out there and, give him in memory as well. He was very young, not even in his 60s, if I recall. So that's very young for someone to pass away.
54.
Very young. That is sad. And anyone, so I believe he played a good chunk of his career in Cleveland. So
Yep.
I'm all for, for someone leaving Cleveland, even though it was in that Baltimore, Cleveland, Baltimore, Cleveland going to Baltimore. Anyone leaving Cleveland, in my opinion, this is just my personal take. That's good for me. So he was there, for big moments though, for the Baltimore Ravens, their first season. I mean, he's done a lot of different things. A lot of different things, and he won. I believe he was also undrafted. So I mean, this guy really earned his way in the NFL. So very, very proud to say have him a part of the Broncos tradition in tackles.
You're right. Undrafted in 1988. And you know what else he brings to the table? Not only his 2 Super Bowl rings, but he brought a second-team All-Pro nod as a Brown, all right, in 94, and then he made the Pro Bowl as the left tackle in 1998. So Tony Jones, yes. I mean, dude, just tragic that he died at 54. So prayers up to him and his fam.
Yes, and again, that's why, even though there was some at him playing right tackle, I'm going to make a little excuse and say, let's have Tony Jones. This has been a great conversation. It's great to see that we also had different tackles, even though it was a pretty slim pickings. And we also agreed how close some of those tackles were. Ryan Harris, I loved him for different reasons. Matt Lepsis, you loved him for different reasons, as you were talking about his consistency. So it's pretty amazing how we're able to all kind of agree closely with these rankings. At the same time, we understand why they're ranked this way. I really enjoy talking at least about the offensive tackles for once, personally.
You know what I think would be fun?
Go for it. Tell me.
To do a best ever Denver Broncos backup quarterback. Who is the best backup?
Oh,
the top 5 in Broncos history. With your Bubbies and your Coobs and,
Gosh, you say the number one to me that comes off my head is Bubby Brister. When I grew up as a kid, I always loved seeing Bubby play. It was I didn't understand football quite yet. I was still learning it. And for some reason, when Bubby came in for John Elway when he was hurt, I just had a great feeling when he was playing there. He looked like he was having fun. I was having fun, just kind of cheering. So Bubby Brister really, really up there in my heart. So that would be a very interesting one. I have a lot of guys that I'd have up there. But people are saying Bubby Brister here. Here's another one I didn't think of. So maybe Steve DeBerg.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I viewed Steve DeBerg more as the guy that got the starter who got deposed by John Elway, not so much Elway's backup. Yeah. So to me, and this is because John and I are separated by half a generation in age, to me, the quintessential backup all time is Gary Kubiak because he served as Elway's backup for the majority of Elway's career, came into the league the same year. And, a lot of people who listen to the show are too young to remember it, but he stepped in at a few different points in the 80s in some key games when Elway would be banged up and he would step in and keep the ship afloat, So maybe we'll focus on a top 5 for position, whatever. And then if we get enough time, maybe Sunday night we'll try and get to top 5 best ever Broncos.
If we can get it, we can definitely try to work it in real quickly.
Craig Morton wasn't a backup.
I don't consider Craig Morton a backup. But for some reason, I think I've asked you this. Do you consider Craig Morton a Cowboy or a Bronco?
See, that one's a little bit more that one's a little bit more even, but I got to say Bronco just because he had more years. Probably I don't have it right in front of me, but he led the Broncos to the Super Bowl, right? The Orange Crush defense that year. He was the Q for the Denver Broncos offense. So I don't know. I don't view Craig Morton as a backup in Denver. I don't either. He might have served as a backup at a few different points, but I don't. And so did Peyton Manning. Week 17, he was a backup to Brock Osweiler, for crying out loud. No one views Peyton Manning as in that conversation.
Those are some great points.
Yeah, old crazy legs Craig. But you know what? Last thing, Bubby Brister would probably be number 2 for me. But I viewed him as a Steeler. He was the Steelers guy for many years in the 90s. In fact, now I got to pull this up because it's going to bug me.
Yeah, I need to know too. I have to know.
So Bubby Brister, guys, all my football cards and my collecting and stuff from 86 to 92, he was a Steeler, and he was the starter for a good chunk of that. And then, he bounced around to Philly and the Jets before he came to Denver. And, I think what endears him to Broncos fans is the fact that, if you don't have Bubby Brister on the roster, maybe and it's a different quarterback, maybe you still win more of those games than you lose for that 4-week stretch that he filled in for Elway. But probably not. You probably don't go 4-0 like Bubby did that year for the Broncos and locking down the number 1 seed where they were able to just steamroll all the way to, remember like Mark Schlereth talking about in the America's Game for Super Bowl 33, by the time they got to the Super Bowl and they're facing across the field their former head coach Dan Reeves and the Atlanta Falcons, there was no doubt in their minds they were winning this game. And it was almost like, an obligatory duty to go out there and quickly handle the Falcons so that we can say we are back-to-back world champions.
And then go to sleep. I remember him saying something about that. Like once they won the game, a few of them were just like, let's go party. The ones that won, the second Super Bowl, guys, we've done a lot of work this year. We're going to bed. So I remember that story a little bit too, as you were saying. That's a great point as well.
All right, guys, listen, we got to get out of here. I got to get ready. I'm going to be on with Benjamin Albright. I'm going to be on with Benjamin Albright, Ryan Edwards, Broncos Country tonight at 7:40, I think is when it is. So I got to eat some dinner and then jump on that. So if you guys want to listen in Denver, you can catch that on KOA. But John, dude, great job rocking it tonight, holding it down. It's great to have you on. I'll look forward to Sunday night show and have a great weekend, bro. And then I'll sign us off.
Thank you so much. You take care of it. It was great talking to all of you. Looking forward to Sunday. We'll find that position that you guys are talking about, and maybe we'll wiggle in some of those backup quarterbacks as well. So appreciate it. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care.
All right, guys. So, hey, don't forget tomorrow night, you got the Dove Valley Deep Divers at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. And then Saturday, the Trickle Zone, noon Mountain Time for our Facebook supporters. And then 2 p.m. Saturday will be Broncos Book Club with yours truly. And then Saturday night, of course, Mile High Insiders. Sunday, I think Zach said there he was still planning on doing a Kelberman's Corner. I didn't specifically talk to him about it, but he made mention that he and Kim were working on something. So,
Tim Dirt, I'm so sorry. He gave me a good point. The giveaway. Ooh. I'm so sorry to break you up like that.
Yep. No.
We have the giveaway. Let's get to that. We always appreciate you guys, especially on Facebook, like yourself, Tim. Appreciate you also shouting out the pod. Same with BNS. Always appreciate it, guys. And let me know when you have the name, correct? Do you have the name?
Yeah, let me just pull it up.
So while you're doing that, I just want to say thank you again to everyone. If we don't usually speak on Twitter, like George, we have a different way of speaking. Always great speaking with you. It's great speaking with Dylan. Everyone. I don't know how to say thank you other than I'm very appreciative of it. And please reach out to me on Twitter. If not, we'll find a different way to talk. There's always plenty of ways. Starting on Facebook finally, so that'll be a new way. I'm working it slowly, guys. Getting to Facebook. It's a deep dive for me.
Okay, here it is. Drum roll. Chris Chavez, winner of this week's giveaway, and Chris made himself eligible by both liking and following the Huddle Up Podcast Facebook page. So, Chris, congrats to you. I don't know if you're with us live right now, but if you hear this or when you hear this, or if you're watching live, just shoot us an email, milehighhuddle@gmail.com, and tell us what your T-shirt size is as well as your shipping address, and we'll get you out a little something as a thank you for taking our call to action to heart. So thanks for that reminder, guys. And
congratulations, Chris.
Make sure you connect with us on Twitter, @HuddleUpPod, @MileHighHuddle. You can find John, as you can see on the screen here, @JohnKMHH. Myself @Chad and Jensen. And don't forget Zach Kelberman @Kelberman NFL. Again, guys, you want to be in on the running for these weekly giveaways that we're doing. All you got to do is make sure you're liking and following the Huddle Up Podcast Facebook page. Check out Becoming a Supporter. All right. Big blue button on our main Facebook page for Mile High Huddle. And guys, check out the merch store, huddleuppod.com. With that being said, thanks to each and every one of you for making it another just fun appointment hosting for yours truly week of podcasting. I just really look forward to it. Appreciate all you guys. Travis, what's up, dude? Good to see you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
And then, John, have a great weekend, bro.
See you soon.
All right, guys. For John, for Zach, I'm Chad. We'll see you Sunday.
You've been listening to the Huddle Up Podcast. Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com to keep the conversation going.